Did you know that nearly 3 billion people had their personal information exposed in a massive data breach? That's almost half the world's population. This shocking breach didn't just leak names and addresses. We're talking about sensitive details like social security numbers and even family information dating back decades. So, what exactly happened, and could your personal data already be out there on the dark web, waiting to be exploited? Stick around as we explore the hack and navigate on how to stay safe and act before it's too late. The breach. Suppose you wake up to find out that the personal data of nearly 3 billion people, yes, billion, has been exposed in what's now being called one of the biggest data breaches in history. This all went down at Jericho Pictures Incorporated, also known as National Public Data, a company that lets people dig into billions of records with just a few clicks. But the scary part is that, according to a lawsuit, the breach didn't just expose some random details. It leaked everything from full names to social security numbers, current and past addresses going back decades, and even sensitive family information. Some of this data included details on relatives who've been deceased for over 20 years. And it all went down on April 8th, 2024, where a criminal group known as USDOD made a bold move. They posted a massive database called National Public Data on a dark web forum called Breached. Interestingly, they claimed to have the personal data of nearly 3 billion people, and they were selling it for a whopping $3.5 million. For some perspective, the global population is around 8.2 billion, which means this breach affected nearly half of the entire world. The implications are massive. We're not just talking about individuals. Businesses, governments, and entire industries could be impacted by the fallout of this data exposure. If that wasn't enough to cause panic, they even threatened to leak the entire database. A security group, VX Underground, got their hands on an advanced copy and confirmed the data was not only real, but accurate. The database, a staggering 277.1 gigabytes uncompressed, contains enough sensitive information to make anyone nervous. Fortunately, people who had used data opt-out services weren't included in the breach. But for everyone else, if you lived in the US, your details were likely out there. The scary part? This data is gold on the black market. Bad actors are always looking to buy personal information like social security numbers and email addresses, which can be used to access your online accounts. And once this data gets into the wrong hands, it can be sold and resold for profit, creating a vicious cycle of exploitation. Until now, Yahoo held the title for the worst data breach in history. Back in 2013, they suffered a series of cyber attacks that compromised all 3 billion of their user accounts. A shocking number that only came to light after Verizon bought Yahoo in 2017. Names, emails, phone numbers, and birth dates were stolen. But thankfully, financial information wasn't included. Fast forward to the NPD breach, and we're potentially looking at something just as disastrous, if not worse. On July 24th, 2024, a man named Christopher Hoffman got a chilling notification from his identity theft service, informing him that his personal information had been found floating around the dark web, all thanks to the nationalpublicdata.com breach. What's even worse, the lawsuit claims that NPD didn't even get this information directly from people. It was scraped from non-public sources without their knowledge or permission. And yet, despite being responsible for protecting it, NPD failed, leading to this massive breach. They have so far remained mostly silent, ignoring multiple media requests for comment, but have responded to a few emails stating that they're aware of third-party claims about consumer data and are investigating the situation. They've also said they purged the entire database and deleted any non-public personal information. But let's be real, if your data was part of this breach, that's cold comfort now. But anyway, how exactly do you know if your data was leaked? If you are wondering whether your personal data was exposed in this huge breach, you're not alone. A cybersecurity platform called Pen Tester stepped in to help by creating a tool that lets you check if your information was part of the leak. While the database itself wasn't redacted, Pen Tester has gone ahead and masked sensitive details like birth years and social security numbers. All you have to do is enter your name, state, and birth year. If there's a match with the NPD breach, the tool will show you exactly what information was exposed, from your name and address to your phone number and social security number. If nothing pops up, you'll get an error message. But don't breathe a sigh of relief just yet. As Pen Tester co-founder Richard Glaser points out, you might need to check states you've lived in before, or even former names, like maiden names, just to be sure. So what are some of the things that people can do to protect themselves? Or at the very least, minimize the damage when their information is breached? It's time to get proactive. There are steps you can take to protect yourself, or at least minimize the damage when your personal information is floating around out there. 1. Freeze your credit card. One of the easiest ways to protect yourself after a data breach is to freeze your credit. It's quick, simple, and it works. There are 3 main credit monitoring agencies you'll need to contact: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Once your credit is frozen with all 3, anyone trying to use your personal information to open a credit card, take out a loan, or do anything involving a financial credit check will be blocked. This makes your stolen information far less valuable to cybercriminals. They may still have your details, but if they can't profit from it, they're more likely to move on to someone who hasn't taken these precautions. However, if you want to apply for a new card, increase a limit, or take out a loan, you'll need to temporarily unfreeze your credit. The good news? This can be done with just a few clicks on the Credit Monitoring Service's website. It's a small inconvenience that could save you a big headache. While the national public data breach might be one of the largest we've seen, it definitely won't be the last. In today's hyper-connected world, data leaks are unfortunately part of life. The best thing you can do is stay vigilant. Monitor your accounts for any suspicious activity, freeze your credit, and if you want extra peace of mind, consider signing up for a service that watches your activity for you. Think of it like this. If you're in a group of people being chased by a bear, you don't want to have to be the fastest. You just can't be the slowest. Freezing your credit is one way to make sure you're not the easiest target when a breach happens. 2. Turn on two-factor authentication. You know that text message you get with a code when logging into certain accounts? That's two-factor authentication in action, and it's one of the simplest ways to lock down your personal information. Two-factor basically means you'll need to confirm your identity in 2 different ways before gaining access to your account, whether it's through a text, an email, or an authenticator app. Adding this extra layer of security is highly recommended by experts like the Identity Theft Resource Center. Yet, surprisingly, a lot of people skip it. Always say yes to two-factor authentication. It's an easy step that can make a huge difference, ensuring that even if someone gets their hands on your password, they still can't get to your accounts. Start with your most sensitive accounts, like your bank or healthcare providers. If you've never set it up before, now's the time. And the best part? Once it's in place, you can breathe a little easier knowing your info is safer. 3. Use strong, unique passwords. It's 2024, so let's leave behind the days of reusing the same password for everything. Hackers love weak passwords, especially if they're common or used on multiple sites. The fix? Make your password at least 12 characters long, mixing upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special symbols. But are you worried about keeping track of all those passwords? That's where password managers come in handy. Tools like Dashlane or 1Password can create strong, complex passwords for you and even autofill them when you log in. No more sticky notes with passwords scribbled on them. Yes, they cost about the same as a Netflix subscription, but there are also free options built into Apple and Google devices that do the same thing. If you're still not sold on using a password manager, At the very least, make sure your passwords aren't based on personal information, like your pet's name or your birthday. The goal is to make it as hard as possible for hackers to guess. 4. Remove your personal info from data broker sites. According to the lawsuit, National Public Data has been scraping personal information from non-public sources. On their website, they even mentioned pulling info from public records, court databases, and other nationwide repositories. While we can't confirm all their sources, it's likely that data broker sites are involved too. Now, while the damage may already be done in this case, it's still smart to take action. One proactive move? Remove your personal info from those data broker sites. Doing so can reduce your exposure and help protect you from future breaches that could happen elsewhere. 5. Don't forget about visibility. If you're open to making your social media accounts private, it can seriously limit the personal information that criminals can get their hands on. For example, if your Facebook posts are public, hackers could easily use them to impersonate you in a phishing scam aimed at your friends or family. It's worth taking a minute to review the privacy settings on all your apps. Not just social media, even platforms like Venmo and YouTube. Just recently, Wired reported that Vice Presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance's public Venmo transactions gave a peek into his social circles. So, take a moment to lock things down and reduce your online visibility. Now that you know just how vulnerable your personal information can be, the question is, what steps will you take to protect yourself? Comment down below. And if you thought this video was useful, please leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.